Hello battlers, welcome to another exciting update to the ever-evolving world of backpack battles. In this breakdown, we'll be dissecting the latest patch that brings not only a brand new item, but also substantial changes to the gameplay mechanic that might just reshape your entire strategy for both Ranger and Reaper classes. We'll go over all of them, so stick around as we unravel this update. Now let's take a close look at the newest item introduced in this patch, the Lump of Coal. Priced at a mere 2 gold, you can think of it as the lowest form of gemstone item out there. Like most gemstones, you can place it on weapons, armor, or just leave it in the empty space of your inventory to get buffs or debuffs. If you choose to place this item on a weapon, you'll get a 60% chance to deal 1 extra damage, while on other sockets, you'll resist 1 debuff and 3 armor. Placing it in an empty space of your backpack will give a random buff and inflict a random debuff after 3 seconds into the battle as well. Keep in mind that all these item effects are a one-time use case as well. So if you don't get that extra 1 damage, then you'll be out of luck for the rest of the match. Since the lump of coal only costs 2 gold, that means there will also be times where the shovel will dig it up for you. Just one of the many reasons to commit to the double shovel meta till mid-late game, I guess. I get to the other reasons later in this video. Overall, I think this brand new item is meant for the early rounds. It can help you win matches, but should be sold way before you enter your survival runs. Based on the early games I did with it, I think it would be best to just have it in the empty space of your backpack, which you may have a lot now during the early game. I say this because starting items for both Ranger and Reaper classes have undergone drastic changes to their starting loadouts. Reapers, you have to bid farewell to your free dagger, and Rangers, get ready to part ways with your wooden sword, but fear not, these adjustments come with additional benefits. Reapers now gain a leather bag for extra space, while Rangers welcome an additional leather bag as well. No need to worry too much if you're either a Reaper or a Ranger, because now you start off with more gold as well. At first, I don't know how to feel about these reworks to the early game. On one hand, I used to love the fact that Reaper started off with a weapon that required no stamina to use, but I guess it made early games for them a lot easier than for Rangers. I do like the fact that the devs decided to give us more gold to roll for, to make up for the lack of weapons that both classes now have. Kind of gives players more freedom to dictate how they will start the game off because of the extra gold you have. Plus, the extra space Reapers have now makes things a little bit easier to manage. I guess the more I talk about it, the more I like these changes actually. It's just going to take me some time to say goodbye to my free dagger. They also changed how rerolls work. No longer can you pull indefinitely for just 1 gold. Now you'll be charged 1 extra gold after 3 and 9 pulls. I guess you can say RNG is going to be a bigger factor now. I recommend that if you're struggling with this change, you should try to build a shovel, buy a piggy bank, or get a box of riches. Shovel will be able to dig items you might need, like a protective purse for storage, or you could just sell the items you don't want for more gold and then use that gold for more pulls. Piggy banks will pay for themselves after 1 run with them in your backpack, since they will generate 1 extra gold after a battle, and you can sell them for 2 coins, which equals the 3 coins you use to pay for it. Box of Riches though will take a little bit longer to pay for itself. However, it will pop out gems that you can use in battle, or you can sell them to the shop for more gold. Generally for 1, but sometimes you might get lucky with a better gem type. Overall, I think Shovel is the best item here to generate economy. Plus, it can actually help you in those early to mid-round battles. 2 is always better than 1 as well. I can see these changes just further pushing players to use double shovel too. We're truly living in the blind meta, so be sure to carry those cleansing items as well. Various weapons have also undergone both small and large adjustments. One of the massive changes is to the Reaper subclass item, Piercing Arrow. Its item effect shapes have changed, as well as its luck generation decreasing from 50% to 40%. However, because of this new shape, you can now apply both stars and diamond effects on the same weapon. Overall, I think this is a net buff and well worth the diminished luck trade-off, which we may not be able to say for another Ranger-only item like the Carrot Goober. The empowerment duration went down from 5 to 4 seconds. Mana Thirst had a nice rework too. Its mana limit is gone, and now life still triggers whenever mana is gained. And it's also increased by vampirism. And lastly, its accuracy stat line is now 100% too, which I think makes for a pretty good rework. Since previously you could just gain 1 mana per hit, and if you had 10 you could just steal 2 lives, which scaled up to 12 when you use 20 mana. The only hindrance players would run into was gaining the mana, since the orb you use to make mana thirst would be gone, as well as the lifesteal aspect from Hungry Blade. And these things kind of made it not ideal to combine the two items unless you had a bunch of blueberries or orbs already in possession. Speaking of mana orbs, they no longer have mana limit or overflow effect, so you can just keep stacking this buff with them. Other weapons saw small nerfs, like the Falcon Blade, which has a slight increase to its cooldown from 2 seconds to now 2.2 seconds, which isn't a huge deal since there's so many items that can speed up that nerf. The Corrupted Crystal also applies its fatigue damage at 5 seconds now, rather than at 4.5 seconds. This weapon also saw its cooldown go from 1.8 seconds to now 1.7. I don't know if it's enough to entice players to use it since it has one of the lowest accuracy stat lines in the game. It was already missing a lot before the blind meta was ever a thing. Maybe Rangers and their luck can find some use for it, but I don't think Reapers should ever touch this item. Lastly, items like Ruby Egg, Ruby Whelp, and Mr. Struggles will have their reflect debuff time be the same as the opponent's. For example, if you are supposed to be blinded from the lightsaber for 8 seconds, the reflected blinds will only last for 8 seconds too. There's also a slight change to when you get your subclass, which is now round 7 instead of round 8. Overall, the biggest changes are to the starting loadouts, which kind of evens out the playing field between Reaper and Ranger. This is just my opinion, but early rounds always felt easier as a Reaper than a Ranger. I noticed I would rarely lose to a Ranger in the first 3 rounds unless I was just trolling with a bad build or doing a challenge. Part of this is the fact that the Reaper just had so much free damage in the form of debuff from the Fly Agaric and the Storage Coffin. The dagger also helps trigger the Storage Coffin's poison effect with no cost of stamina. This meant that you could buy more weapons and worry a little bit less about stamina. However, you would run out of room more quickly, which kind of drove you into buying more room. At the end of the day, I like these changes because it also gives players more freedom in how they start off the game and worry less about managing space too. I also think Lump of Coal is great for Rangers because it can help close the gap between Reapers when it comes to having debuffs in the first 3 to 4 rounds. However, I think since it costs 2 golds, I don't think it will be meta changing. You might be better off not buying Lump of Coal, but if you dig it up with a shovel, then go for it. In my opinion, placing it in an empty backpack space would be better than just putting it on weapons, armor, or other item sockets. It guarantees you a single buff and debuff, unlike other options where you might be rolling the dice a bit more. It would be cool to see if it can combine with other items in the future to justify its price tag. I would not recommend taking it into survival mode unless you're just stacked with money and don't have any other gems to use. In all honesty, you shouldn't have any by round 8. Also, at the moment, I'm not the biggest fan of the reroll changes, but I guess it's necessary to curb those no Bali builds. One of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of this change is that now it will be a little bit harder to get certain items that I want. The second reason is that I'm kind of worried about RNG. This change will make it stronger and it will continue to grow as more items are added to the game. It will take some time to get used to this change. It doesn't ruin the game, but it just offers an opportunity to be a bit more creative with our economy. The balance changes on weapons aren't drastic either, besides the mana thirst, which got a rework. That might make the weapon a bit more useful. And I'm always a big fan of small nerfs than big, huge, sweeping ones. I really like what the devs are doing by updating and giving us new content every week so things don't get too dry or a single meta dominates the game for a long time. Kind of just shows how much they believe in this game's success too by putting in so much effort. Let me know how you guys feel about these changes in the comments down below. What are some things you're more happy with and some things you're not? Let's discuss. But till then, stay safe and I'll see you in the next one.